Okay, hello there once again. So, welcome to our next lecture. So, last meeting we discussed about the different purposes of why there's a need for us to listen attentively. And we say that when we listen attentively, it will be able for us to relate ourselves to others, to establish a connection with others. And with that kind of improving ourselves when it comes to listening, it helps us eventually on how we can be self-critical of ourselves, on how we can be able to relate ourselves to other people. So for this day, for this lecture, what we'll be tackling about are the different types of listening. So when we talk of the different types of listening, we mentioned of the following. Okay, first, type is discriminative listening. The next is the informational listening. Then next is critical listening. And finally is emphatic listening. So how do these four differ from one another? So let's talk about first discriminative listening. So when we talk of discriminative listening, so this discriminative type of listening involves identifying the difference between tones and sounds to figure out how these differences may affect the entire meaning of a sentence. So let's say, for example, we look at how Sarbach tone change from sad to happy. So although we're saying the same words, let's say for example, you say I love you to someone, we can say I love you, or you can say I love you. So you can say different ways on how to say, you have a different way on how to say I love you to someone. But by just merely listening to it, although the word I love you means mahal kita, that you love a person, but depending on the tone of the voice of the person, you say that the person is not sincere, the person is not true to what he or she is saying, or the person might be um, intentionally loving you for real. Okay, so that's one way of identifying on or applying what discriminative type of listening is. Then discriminative listening enables us to pick up on verbal cues that indicate what the speaker is truly saying or what emotions they are trying to express, just like they mentioned to you. So when your parents are telling you to say sorry to them, then they would know that if you're sincere or not. Or if your partner or your boyfriend or girlfriend would say sorry to you, or you're saying sorry to your partner, then they would know if you're telling the truth or not. Unless otherwise, they are close-minded people that they would don't want to believe of whatever you're saying. Okay, I have here another example. For example, when we focus our listening on a dark part of the yard while walking the dog at the night to determine if the noise we just heard presents us with any danger. Yeah. So the next one is informational type of listening. So it entails listening with the goal of comprehending and retaining information. So you can hear now that it is raining. So you can now discriminate the sound of Surbach from the rain. Then you would discriminate now why Surbach sounds aloud, increases his voice because of the rain. Okay, now, in informational listening, it entails listening with the goal of comprehending and retaining information. So it is usually observed in teaching and learning contexts. So let's say, for example, if you are listening to what your teacher is telling you during the class discussion, then the main purpose where you would like to listen to your teacher is for you to observe information. So it is also used when we listen to news reports. So we would like to know, ilan na bang panalong medalya ng Pilipinas? What's the standing of the Filipino athletes in the Olympics? How was our athletes? And we will listen to the news, or we would like to have an update about the COVID-19, about the vaccination. Then we listen to the news. or voicemail and briefings at work. Okay. So since in informational listening, since retention and recall are important components of informational listening, good concentration and memory skills are keys. So if you would like to really, um, really understand or to retain what the person is saying, you have to listen to them attentively. So imagine if you are in a large crowd and the person is giving a lecture about something, then if there is a noise outside, how are you going to get the information from that person? Because if there are barriers for you that impede you to get that information, what then will you do? Okay, how are you going to listen attentively? And I myself had experienced that. The next one is critical listening. So critical listening requires us to listen to a message and assess whether the message and the speaker are trustworthy. We keep on mentioning about critical listening even in our previous discussion. So critical listening can help us evaluate the message we already know. So let's say, for example, we already have a prior knowledge about what communication is, and you listen to Sir Batch discussion that adds another knowledge to you, although there is an informational listening on that aspect, and then you would now evaluate whether what you know is what you currently know is something that can be debunked or can be changed because iba pala yung nalaman mo noon kesa dun sa napakinggan mo ngayon. So you will not be able to identify which one is which kind of information that you would like to use or not. So kumbaga naliwanagan ka when you heard of additional information that I'm sharing to you about, let's say, communication. So you can achieve that through critical listening because again, you are able to evaluate the message that you already know, whether the message that you already know is true or not. Example, it enables professionals to conduct brainstorming sessions, create new solutions, and debate strategies. Next is emphatic listening. Emphatic listening is the most challenging form of listening. Why do we say so that it is the most challenging form of listening? In the term itself, empathy. You would like to show that you are concerned to others, that you are concerned to the person whom you are talking with. So it occurs when we try to understand or experience what a speaker is thinking or feeling. Because when we talk of empathy, you're not only just solely listening to what others are telling you. Let's say, for example, your friends or others are confessing about the problems in life, their tensions in life. So in order for you to understand their situation, you try to put yourselves on their shoes, and then you're trying to think or feel what it feels like to be on their shoes, to be on their situation. And that's the challenging part. And if you will not be able to place yourself on the situation of others, then that might help you now to understand now his or her predicaments in life. Empathic listening is distinct from showing sympathy. Iba kasi ang empathy sa sympathy eh. Here are the differences. So when we talk of empathy, it means to feel into or feel with another person. When we talk of sympathy, it means to feel for someone. Kumbaga, kumbaga mas malalim ang pagpapakita ng empathy because you're trying to feel what the person is feeling. Okay? You're trying to feel into or feel with another person. You're trying to connect the emotion, connect with the person, and try to relate yourself to the situation of that person by merely listening. But when we talk of sympathy, it means to feel for someone. You just would like there to show your presence to the person and listen to the person as the person is telling you something about his or her problems. Your presence is just there, but you're not actually totally absorbing what the person is saying because your presence there is still important. Okay, let's try to identify the different types of listening based on this. Okay. So interviewing an applicant to know more about them is an example of informational listening. So when you're listening to many music to choose which music suits your taste, so that is discriminative listening. When a priest is listening to the confession of one of the church members, after which the priest gives a piece of advice, that is an emphatic listening. A marketing head is presenting a marketing proposal. You as a boss is listening attentively to assess if the proposal will be effective or not. That is a critical listening. Okay, so with that, you've filled in once again your bean with Sir Batch Learning Bean, and thank you for listening.